guys, so welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to go through a recipe for a really easy focaccia bread. I was gonna do just a normal bread, but unfortunately I don't have bread flour, so we're just gonna do a focaccia bread and we're gonna hope for the best. I love making focaccia bread because it is super easy to make and it is really good. It's best that you eat it within a week of making it, simply because you have to keep like heating it up if you don't, because it'll just get really hard. Okay, and I'll try and remember to link the recipe that I use in the description box below. If you if I don't and you want the recipe, just send me a message and I can send it to you for sure. So what we're gonna do the sugar and the yeast in this sugar, yeast, and water. I mean, we're going to put it in there. And we need about 1 1/3 cups of water, and it should be warm water, not hot. So if you want to be really precise about it, the recipe says 110 Fahrenheit. I'm just going by warm water. As long as it's not hot to the touch, it shouldn't really matter. Then we're going to do 2 teaspoons of sugar. Sorry if I'm shouting because my washing machine is really loud. So there's 1 and 2. And then we're going to take our package of active dry yeast. This is the one that you want. You want the traditional. You don't want to get, I don't remember what the other one's called. Instant yeast or whatever it is. You want the active dry because you want to let it sit for about 5 minutes. Dump that in there, and then we're just going to turn this on and give it a little bit of a stir. And if it doesn't stir it up all the way, just use your spoon and give it a stir. Now we're gonna let that sit for about 5 minutes. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna add the flour, the olive oil, and the salt. Now I don't have olive oil, but I do have vegetable oil, so I will be using that instead of olive oil. And I've got my flour, and I've got salt. So we're just gonna give that a second to kind of get a little bit foamy. And then we need, how much flour here? We need 3.5 cups of flour. Okay, that just had water. So we need 3.5, my half cups over here, of flour, and we need a 1/4 cup of olive oil. You can obviously cut it down a little bit because you're gonna put more on top as well. So it's not too much of a worry if you don't use as much. Now the recipe also calls for flaked sea salt. I don't have flaked sea salt, so I'm just gonna use what I have. And then for the topping, it calls for fresh rosemary, but I just have dried rosemary, and it works. And you can also, what I'm gonna do, Simply because I like garlic, I'm going to chop up some garlic and put fresh garlic on top. So it's going to be a garlic rosemary focaccia bread instead of just a rosemary focaccia bread. But remember, you can experiment on your own and see what works for you. If it doesn't work for me, it doesn't mean it's not going to work for you. So if it's something that you would rather try, say doing like a thyme and rosemary one, or a dill one. You could always try a dill one. I've never tried dill. I am curious about it, but I've never tried it. But you gotta remember, you gotta do it for your tastes, not for what the recipe says. So now what we're gonna do, because this is starting to foam up here, we're going to put this down. We're gonna give it a mix. Excuse me. And then we're gonna start slowly adding in our flour. Now this is just all-purpose flour. So we need 3.5. Now if you do a little bit less, it just will be a lot doughier, so try to get the exact amount if you can make sure. And there's 3. We're gonna dump it in there, and we're gonna take out a half. We're gonna turn this up a little. Oh geez, turn it down a little. Turned it up too high. I always seem to do that. So I'm just gonna put the flour away and let that mix in. So it's starting to take shape. We're gonna take our 1/4 cup of oil. And we're just gonna add that in. And you need your oil, so don't put it away, you need it again anyways. And then we're gonna take our salt, and I'm just gonna add a little bit in simply because I'm gonna add a bunch on top. I'm just gonna let that mix together. And what I'm going to do, you don't have to do this, and the recipe doesn't call for it, but because I like letting my bread rise, I'm gonna put a little bit of oil in this bowl. So we're just gonna kind of press this together. Oops. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna try and knead it just a little bit, simply because it's not really together for some reason, but that's okay. All the pieces that fell off, I'm just gonna leave them off. So there's our ball of dough, and I'm just gonna stick it in this bowl. And we've got a little bit of olive oil on the bottom. I'm just gonna drizzle a little bit on the top there. And then we've got that. And then I'm gonna go grab a towel. We're just gonna cover it with the towel here, and I will see you guys in about 45 minutes to an hour. We'll let that rise, and you want to make sure it's warm So like the winter time, put it by like your furnace, or if you have a wood stove. Summertime, you can put it by a window. My house is warm enough, so it's just gonna stay on the counter, and then we'll be back when it's time to put it together. So see you in a bit. And we are back. So it has been about 45 minutes that this dough has been sitting. Now it hasn't risen all that much, but it's enough that we can use it. I'll turn that there so we can, whoops, too far. Okay, so I've prepped the bottom of my pan. It's got a little bit of salt, some rosemary, and my garlic pieces. Excuse me. Now, I'm just gonna double check the temperature for the oven. I believe it's 350, but 400 degrees. So we're gonna start my oven here. Turn that on. And I'm just gonna move this here because I am watching a show while I was doing this, but also need to charge this. Okay. So what we're gonna do is while that's heating up, we're gonna press it into here, and then we're gonna cover it again and just let it rise some more on the stove while we're waiting for it to heat up. So we're just gonna grab the dough out. So I'm just gonna kind of make it a little bit bigger here so that when I press it in, it doesn't move all the garlic all over. And then we're just gonna press it. Just like that. And we want lots of finger holes in it because we want lots of little pockets for your garlic and your oil and everything to sit. So we're just gonna put some oil in this. I'm just gonna kind of move that around. We're gonna grab our salt. I'm gonna sprinkle some salt on here. We'll take our rosemary. Sprinkle some of that on there, and then we're just gonna take the garlic, and I've just got, I just cut it into chunks, so I'm just gonna kind of try and place it, but I mean, if I get clumps of garlic, I don't care because I love garlic anyways. Just get it set up here, because chances are when it rises a little more, the garlic is going to get sucked in. So I'm just going to kind of push it down so that it goes into the bread, because I want to have nice little pockets of garlic that has no oil in it. Oh, some people are snowmobiling. So there's our prepared focaccia. Oh, excuse me, I'm hiccuping. Off here. So while our oven is preheating, we're going to take this and just put it on top of the stove. Got it set for 400 degrees, so I will be back when it's time to put it in the oven. See you in a bit. Okay, so the timer, or not the timer, the oven just went off. And as you can see, it did already start puffing up again. So we're gonna stick this in the oven. Says about roughly 20 minutes. My oven is off by a couple degrees and it loses its heat really easily. So mine will probably be, I'll do for 20 on the timer and then I will check it. And if it's still not done, then I will put it in for more. I don't want to go over 40 minutes simply because then it'll just dry out. So once it's done and out of the oven, we'll come back and you guys will get to see what the finished product looks like. So I'll see you in a little bit. And just like that, as my dryer goes off, our focaccia bread is done. Mine took about 35 minutes, I want to say, just to get it brown, because it was done cooking at 20 minutes, but because the top still looked a little bit doughy, I wanted to put it in for a little bit so it gets more of the color on the top and the sides. And now we're just gonna let it kind of cool. I've added a little bit of olive oil to the top because I like adding it after it's done cooking as well, because I mean, you can dip it when you're eating it, you can dip it in a little bit of olive oil, but I just like adding a little bit before you cut it up. So we're gonna let it cool, sit and cool, and then I'll be able to throw it in the freezer. I'm gonna cut it like in half and then in half again, so it'll be in little chunks, and then I'll throw it in the freezer so that when I want a piece, I can grab a piece out. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, and remember to hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you next time. Bye.